Good morning, and welcome to the Daily Word this morning, coming to you from St. Paul's United Church of Christ. Glad you could join me for our time together. We've reached the end of another week, and it's a rainy, dreary day in March. I think March 1st, a beautiful day, came in like a lamb, but the lion has quickly turned. So hopefully today won't be horrible, but be careful if you're out there doing what you do, because it could be nasty out there this morning. So as always, I'm appreciative when you carve out time to be with me as we share our lives together and we journey through the Word together and how it affects us. So thanks for always doing that, for saying good morning or good afternoon or whatever time that you watch it. So we gather this morning to end this week, and today is Daily Word number 684. And I've taken couple of verses from Psalm 27 today. I love this psalm. This psalm is a sustaining one. It gives us lots of insight about who God is. I want to share two different ways that this psalm is written. First, from the New Revised Standard Version, updated version, Psalm 27, verses 11 through 13, we hear these words. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies. Do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, and they are breathing out violence. I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And then as I was looking at this scripture, I found this rendering from a person named Nan Merrill, and it goes like this, their translation. Teach me to be love as you are love. Lead me through each fear. Hold my hand as I walk through the valleys of doubt each day, that I may know your peace. I believe that I shall know the realm of heaven, of love, here on earth. I love that translation of that. It makes it kind of personal. It's interesting, though, this psalm begins with a rather bold statement of faith, right? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? That's how the psalm begins. But then it quickly turns, because the psalm then gives lots of references to enemies, to adversaries. The psalm shifts quickly to become a litany of fears, interspersed with some positive faith talk. I love this psalm. It's a reminder to us. But yet, I think for us, for me, especially as I think about this and as I live my life, that I want to know God as more than a shield, a buckler, more than God who's on my side. I like the idea, to think about the idea, to be interspersed in our lives with the idea of living in God's peace. Living in God's peace. But I'm pretty sure that the biggest obstacle to living in God's peace, me specifically and you, living in God's peace is really not other people. Other people are not the biggest obstacles. I think what the biggest obstacle to living in God's peace is us. And how we think about, as the psalmist describes them, enemies and adversaries and those on the other side of us. If we're to grow in our life, if we're going to grow through life's challenges, if we're going to endure for the long haul, if we're going to survive the wounds that we get and come out transformed on the other side, to know the realm of heaven on earth, the realm of love, heaven on earth, perhaps, just perhaps, we need to think about and change how we think about our enemies. You know, we sometimes think that when we focus on our differences with each other, we think of people as our enemies. And I think for us, one of the challenges for us is that instead of looking at each other as enemies, we should look at each other as partners, as folks who can live life together, folks who can be and say the words boldly, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" I think we should resist. We should stop, actually. We should stop the temptation to cast people who are different than us as our enemies. I think that's one of the main problems in our political system right now. I know there are lots of problems, and you could probably say, yeah, but Jim, what about this, this, and this? I know. But we immediately cast the person on the other side of the aisle as our enemies. Our neighbors, those who look different than us, as our enemies. We get afraid of somebody who looks different than us or who might think different than us, and we cast them as our enemies. But what if we took hold of this psalm, and especially that second translation that I read to you, teach me to be love as you are love. Lead me through each fear. Hold my hand as I walk through the valleys of doubt each day, that I may know your peace. I believe that I know that I shall know the realm of heaven of love here on earth. Gosh, the idea of you and I together as brothers and sisters living in God's peace. And we live together in peace, not as enemies, not as adversaries. The psalmist, has all these words to say. He looks at his enemies and those who are struggling against him as he perceives it. And then, he says in the regular translation, I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And friends, I believe that too. And I think that's what we strive for. And that's what I want for us. You and I, as we live our lives together, if we want to make the world a better place. I was just listening on my computer. I'm working on my stuff for Sunday, and I always like to have noise in the background because on Friday especially, it's so quiet here. And I was just listening to the song, We Are the World. We are your children. We are the ones who might make a brighter day. So let's start living. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true we make a better day, just you and me. Make a better world, just you and me. That's what God strives for in us and wants in us. And I hope that you and I would just find ways to do that together, to live in the realm of God's love in this place right now. And that's what I'd hope for us. I had a funeral yesterday, and in my message, they talked. When I met with the family, we had this big, long conversation. I had 7 or 8 pages of notes in my small notebook, and rather than just regurgitate them, I took my notes with me, but I just talked about who he was. And as I got to thinking about it early yesterday morning in my office, it just dawned on me. He worked hard, he played hard, and he loved hard, meaning he loved big. And that's who he was. And I said, we struggle through life trying to figure it out. And I think he had it figured out. Work hard, play hard, and love hard and big. Gosh, that's what the psalmist, that's what God, that's where we ought to strive to be in our lives. So, I hope that's a good word as we end our week together. I hope you'll join us Sunday morning at 10:15 for worship. We're going to hear about Nicodemus. We know Nicodemus comes to Jesus after dark. Jesus says, you need to be born again. And Nicodemus is like, I don't understand all of that. And of course, probably the most famous scripture that we know, John 3:16, comes from that. We're going to talk about that and how it can be that God would live in us right now. So, that's our word for the day. Hope you'll join us Sunday morning at 10:15 and here again Monday at 10 o'clock. Have a great weekend. Know of God's love that surrounds you. Know of my love for you. And I will see you Sunday morning. Have a great day and a great weekend.